Welcome back. This time we're going to take our wireframe and start applying colors and styles and add some of the actual content in. But what I'd like to do is show you, this is the wireframe we were working on, so I just want to show you how the homepage, homepage came out. If you take a look, I've put all the elements on here. It's pretty much looking the same as the original one that we did. But if I take a look at the assets palette, it will show me all the colors that I placed in. It'll show me my character styles, and if I created any components. Now, I didn't create any components for this particular app. The reason being is it works really well with things like symbols and repeating elements. Even though I do have a repeating element here in the sidebar, I just chose to not bother doing it that way. So, getting back to this, let me show you what the finished looks like. All right, so down here, and I'm just going to zoom out a little bit by using Command minus, and again Control minus for those people using a PC. And you're probably looking at this going, okay, this looks a little weird. It's a lot different than what we did as the wireframe. The reason being for that is strictly because we are using a sidebar float-in menu, and basically what that's going to do is drop down a menu and then take you to another slide. So in order for that to work, I had to duplicate the slide and actually reposition how I want it to look. So you have to start with a beginning and an end in order for that transition to work, right? So the beginning is, there's the little 3 lines, and this is what it looks like, and then it's going to move into what the drop-down menu looks like. Now, you can do it a different way. You can actually have it so that way when the drop-down menu comes in, it just goes on top of what you're doing. And as you can see in some of these slides, that we've actually given it a little bit of a drop shadow, because black on black would have looked really flat. So this gives it a little bit off the page look, and or off the screen look to be more precise, and shows exactly how I want it to work. So getting back to this, let's take a look at some of the elements that are different from our original wireframe. For one, you can see this list is very long. Instead of just being a single screen, it's actually a scroll screen. The other thing is, you can see that we've put in images into each one of these panels, and I've created a logo. Now, the logo I created in Illustrator and exported as a PNG. There are, in fact, enough tools within Adobe XD for you to be able to create something inside of this program. You don't have to bring it in from somewhere else. But I just kept it simple because most of us are working in that kind of realm. So from this point, what I would like to do is show you how I built upon these. So I'm going to grab this one here on the end for podcasts. So you can see how this is developed. I'm just making a copy by holding down Option and clicking and dragging. So here we have a copy. Now understand that this app I've already hooked up, so we can see how it works. But I noticed after I did it that I've made a few mistakes, and I've left them in so I can show you how to correct, first of all, and also what works and what doesn't work in terms of transition. So let's just start with this to begin with. So the first thing that I want to sort of point out is that if I'm grabbing this from the label, you see this double blue line here? That indicates that this is the end of the screen and I've gone past it. So what that does is it automatically places a scrolling ability. So you see how it's come up as vertical automatically? Now, if I decide to change the size of this or whatever, I can actually say, no, don't do it. Let's frustrate the user. But we want them to scroll. So the way this works, the original position for this would have been here. All I did was open it up. And you'll notice that I've actually gone past the end of the text. And the reason for that is, again, some screens end up with like elements that are belonging to the device you're using. So you want to make sure that your user isn't frustrated, that they can get to the bottom. And if you actually put anything in there like a navigation bar or something that they would have to tap on, they need the access. So getting back to this, here's what we're going to do. You can see my elements here. I've actually put in the 3 lines for the drop-down menu. I have a little tag here that's telling you what it is you're looking at, and then of course the definition and the examples of how to use it. Now, there's other ways of doing this. There are plugins available with Lorem Ipsum. We're not using them here, but you can always download them and you can find things through your plugins manager right here. I just wanted to point that out. We're not actually using it here. I've actually taken all of my definitions from the Merriam-Webster dictionary online. So, but I'm going to remove this because I want to show you how the masking works, because I did it for both the logo and all of these images. If I double click on the image, you can see that it's actually gone past. And I've used Adobe Stock for most of my images, well, actually for all my images except for the logo, which I created. But you don't have to. There's many different stock sites that are available. And also you'll notice it's watermarked, which is fine because this is a prototype. This is not your finished app. So having something that's watermarked is not going to bother it. But let me quickly show you Pixabay and Adobe Stock. Let's start with Pixabay. I know I had Adobe Stock there, but let's start with Pixabay. Pixabay actually is a copyright zero website, so you can feel fear-free of using these images. Again, this is just for placement. We're creating this prototype. The likeliness of us using the actual photos and illustrations that we're getting from this might be slim, might not be the same thing. And if we do want to do it, then you have this available. The great thing with Adobe Stock is that it's very simple for you to integrate with Adobe XD. You can create a library and you can actually just download it to your library automatically. So here's that awesome picture that I used. And if I click here, it's just going to save it to the library. So let's go back to XD. Now, again, you have to be logged in. As you can see my little picture here, I'm logged in. Go back to Adobe XD, and I'm going to go into File and open the CC libraries and show you that here is all of my previews, including my logo, under Adobe XD Basics. And the same thing is true if I flip back really quickly to Adobe Stock. My libraries, because I'm logged in, are right here. So those are libraries I'm using for different purposes. So let's go back to XD again. And so you can see that I've used it here. So I have it readily available because I'm going to delete this to show you how to build it. So I'm going to use the rectangle box. I have guides. So I'm just going to place this in. And as you can see, as soon as I put in this box, it covers those two elements that I need. I'm going to show you, again, once we drag and drop this in, I'll show you how this works. So grabbing the podcast image, I'm going to just drop it, and it instantaneously masks to the actual size of what it is that I created. And again, I can double click, reposition this if I don't like it. If I want to have more focus just on the microphone and the monitor, I can do that. As soon as I click off of it, it masks it to the actual square that I created. Very simple, very quick, not a really big problem. Now, I have to move this to the back. Again, if you've used other products, then you're probably aware of this. You go up to Object, go to Arrange, and send it to the back. And now the other two items are on top. Very simple to create. And again, you just would have to click on the label to scroll this down. It will automatically put in the scrolling feature. Very simple, quick, and you can always make adjustments. This one is too big, so I'm going to bring it down, and you can see it adjusts automatically. Now, I don't really need this one because I already have it, so I'm going to just put it off to the side, and we're going to come back in and take a look at this. Now, if you're using a sidebar like I did, it's automatically connected, or it will automatically connect to the screen that you're using. For example, I've got this one right here. So I've placed those three little lines. If I click on it, you'll automatically see that I have, in fact, hooked up this sidebar. And what you really need to do is you need to make sure that you position it just touching the edge. It needs to be associated with the screen that you're using, so it needs to have that tiny, tiny little bit of connection. And what I've done to do that, there's a drop shadow there, like I said. So you want to have the drop shadow so that way you can see, sorry, I'm scrolling in really tight, so you can see that it's actually on top of something. Now let me zoom back out, and I want to show you how this works. So before we even get into connecting this, I'm going to select this and preview in design what my design looks like. So this little arrow will give me a desktop preview of what this looks like. Now, the great thing about the desktop preview is that you can record it, you can create a movie of it, and send it to other people so they can see how it's going to work, and it will show your cursor clicks and all of that. But as you can see, this is what it's going to look like on the mobile application that I'm creating. Now, before we continue with that, I'm going to zoom back out. And like I said, there are some things that I created here that are working beautifully and some that I used something different than what I really wanted. So I'm going to show you how to correct and how to hook up. So this list here is your drop-down menu. And what it's going to do is you got a little instruction for the user so it doesn't frustrate them. And all they have to do is tap on either of these things in order for them to get to those two lists. And it's really the only two things they need to do, because you're always going to go from the list to wherever the definition is, or the example of it is. Now, sometimes you may change that as you go along. But again, your app, build it your way. I encourage you to use whatever it is that you feel you want to use to create this. I've only hooked up these words right here. So you've got awesome and irony and definition, etc. Just the top ones, because again, it's a prototype. You don't have to hook up everything, but it's nice to see it if it's all hooked up. Getting to the actual prototype stage now. Select prototype. And again, I'm going to show you what I mean by something I like and something I don't like in this. So we're just going to use this area here. If I select the home, and home is always where it starts, so you really want to have this connected as your home. If you go into this one, you'll see it's dark. So this is the one that I'm using. And you can see from my selection how my connected wires are actually hooking up. You literally, all you have to do is, and I'm going to come in closer to show you this, I'm going to disconnect it so it's not a bad thing to see. And all you really need to do is you're going to have this little arrow come up. I'm going to connect it to here, right? And over here are the instructions. So in this case, I want it to be a tap. So if somebody touches it, it goes. I want it to animate to the sidebar, and I want it to slide in or slide out. Hang on a second. No, I don't. I want it to ease in. So, excuse me. So let's have a look at how that works. And I'm going to use 0.3 seconds. So let's test it. Click on the arrow. This is hooked up. I get a little hand. I click on it. It eases in. And it slides over what was actually there. Now, like I said, you can actually have it so it's on top, or you can have it that it just slides in like that. Now, there's a bit of delay, so it doesn't actually look as good as what I want. And as a matter of fact, it's not really what I had anticipated in the first place. So let's go down here to actually using the word list. Now, there's a lot of wires going on here. So as you can see, if I select this wire right here, what I've done instead is I've still got this auto animate ease in and out, but I'm going to change this and try something different. I'm going to try a transition instead. And I want it to go to the word list sidebar, but instead of dissolve, I want it to slide left. And again, you can choose ease in and out. You can choose ease in, ease out, whatever way you want to do it. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to change the amount of seconds. Right now I have it as a half a second. I'm going to change it to 0.3, so it's a little bit faster. Okay, and let's test this out. So I'm going to select it, hit the button, and this time, that's really what I was looking to do, is ease it in and have everything slide over. But this still looks kind of awkward because everything's moved over and I've slid it in. So try different things. See what's going to work for you. All right, because I really encourage you to do that, because that's the best way to learn this product. The X, I've used an X, you can use a cross. Design elements are entirely up to you, how you want things to look. An X looks like an X, okay, but you might want to use just something that crosses so it gives you that more intent look. And again, if I click on this, it's going to slide it back out. Different things going on here, but for the most part, I've used the same technique over and over again, and you can see how it's hooked up. So all of these are hooked up to the word list right here. So every word has been hooked up to where it's going. These X's and the sidebar have all been hooked to go back here and also to go back to the quote list in case you want to see some quotes using words. This is the basic design of it, and that's pretty much all we're doing. The other thing I want to show you is how to share this, because you need to publish it. So if you click on the share button, you can see right here that I've actually already shared it online. So it's showing up, but let me update that link. So it's actually going to connect. Sorry, I'm zoomed in a little bit too tight for you to see. There it is. And what it'll do is it'll allow me to copy this link, send it by email, or to publish it as a design review, a development presentation, etc. Whatever you want to publish it as, you can. I've actually published it with anyone who has this link can use it, but you can, in fact, change the access to having it be invitation only. I would encourage you in this case to actually share it with everyone so that way we can have a look at it. Thank you very much for participating, and enjoy creating your app.